The Yokai Watch series has been around for quite some time now. It's currently celebrating its 10-year anniversary and has been through a lot over the decade. And what better way to cover the series and its history than with an iceberg? Despite it being around for this long, I haven't seen anyone make an iceberg on the series yet, which surprised me. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and see if I can do the series justice by making an iceberg of my own. Safe to say, we have a lot to cover. So join me today as we take a look at the Yokai Watch iceberg. Yokai Watch is the first game in the series, releasing on July 11, 2014 in Japan and November 6, 2016 in the US. Yokai Watch is about a young boy named Nate who discovers the existence of yokai and is given the iconic Yokai Watch. He then goes on an adventure to befriend and help yokai, while also dealing with an evil spirit named Squidilius McCracken that wants to take over the world and usher in a new age of yokai supremacy. The gameplay involves yokai fighting independently, with your only job to make sure that they're in decent condition as the fight continues. Instead of capturing yokai like you would in any other monster collecting RPG, this game lets you befriend them instead. After battle, there is a chance the yokai you fought will approach you and ask to be your friend. If you choose yes, the yokai will give you your medal, and from then on, you'll be able to add them to your party and use them in future battles. Inspirits are abilities that yokai possess that can cause various effects on whoever is the target of it. These can range from causing drastic change in personality, people performing actions that are strange or out of character, or causing aspects of their life to change in positive or negative ways. The Inspirits last for as long as the yokai wants it to, and they usually don't stop until someone forces them to. In the games, they function as buffs or debuffs depending on the yokai. These Inspirits can cause positive effects like healing over time, boosting attack and defense, while others can cause negative effects such as damage over time, lowered stats, or even causing enemies to be confused and attack their allies. Food is a type of consumable item in the games used as healing items. Besides being used to heal, they can also be used to help befriend yokai during a battle by increasing their chances of joining you. Every yokai has a favorite food, and the higher the quality of their favorite food, the more likely they are to join you. Tribes are groups every yokai is associated with. Every tribe houses different yokai of various appearances and abilities. There are 8 tribes consisting of the Charming Tribe, the Tough Tribe, Eerie Tribe, Shady Tribe, Brave Tribe, Mysterious Tribe, Heartful Tribe, and Slippery Tribe, each with their own quirks or traits that are shared among their respective yokai. Medals are items that are used to summon yokai and are one of the most iconic aspects of the series. Every yokai is capable of possessing a medal of their own and can give them the humans that they like. Obtaining a yokai's medal is a very serious thing in their culture, and they see this as a form of friendship, letting those who earn their medal summon them in their time of need. This format will prove unique enough for them to warrant making physical releases of the yokai medals that you get in the games. Each series would have medals of yokai that appeared in the games, while also adding some unique and rare variants into the mix as well. Noko is a yokai of the Slippery Tribe that is known for bringing great luck. He is a small snake that is very elusive and rare to encounter. Despite that, he is very easy to obtain in the mainline games, with Yokai Watch 2 being the exception. In Yokai Watch 2, he can only be obtained with a Select-A-Coin Plus. If you have a photo from the first game saved on your SD card, you can talk to Mr. E at Mount Wildwood and he'll give you the coin. Noko is based off the creature from Japanese folklore of the same name, Tsuchinoko. Tsuchinoko is known to be a cryptid, said to be a 1 to 2 feet tall venomous snake with a small body and a wide midsection. It has been treated with the same notoriety as Bigfoot, with people always trying to prove its existence. Bluminoko is the evolved form of Noko. In the first Yokai Watch game, Bluminoko could be obtained by fusing Noko with a rare item called the Drop of Joy. This item had a small chance to appear in battle after encountering Noko. Every other entry afterwards would require you to just level up Noko to a specific level. Panda Noko is one of, if not the most rare and hard to obtain yokai throughout the series. The only way to encounter Panda Noko is to connect with someone via Street Pass who also has a copy of Yokai Watch, and even then you have a very small chance to make him appear. Even if he does appear, you'll still have to go through the obnoxious task of befriending him, which realistically isn't going to happen on your first try, and you're going to have to do a lot of trial and error, which means you'll have to repeat the process multiple times just for a chance to befriend them once. So outside of trading, this will be the only way you can encounter Panda Noko throughout the entire series, with the exception of Yokai Watch 4, meaning you will have to constantly street pass people in every game he appears in, just for a small chance for him to appear, and even then, there's no guarantee that he'll befriend you on the first, second, or even fifth try. QR codes were introduced in the first Yokai Watch game. These codes could be scanned by using the 3DS camera, and upon a successful read, you could redeem them for coins or rare items that could be used to obtain new or rare yokai. QR codes were distributed in a few ways at the time, such as appearing on the backs of medals you could purchase, appearing at the ends of videos on the official YouTube channel of Yokai Watch, while also being posted on their official Twitter and Facebook page. Ranks are another core aspect of the games. Every yokai is assigned a rank, and from the lowest to highest, the ranks are E, D, C, B, A, and S, with S being the highest. The higher the rank of the yokai, the stronger they are. Attitudes or traits yokai are given by default. Depending on their attitude, it'll affect their behavior in battle. For example, if a yokai is kind, they'll be more inclined to heal their allies in battle. If a yokai is grouchy, they'll be more aggressive and attack far more often. And if a yokai is brainy, they'll be more likely to use their techniques. Attitudes can be changed with books. These can be bought at stores or found randomly throughout the overworld or in battles. Attributes are elemental attacks that yokai can use as a technique. The attributes consist of fire, water, lightning, wind, earth, ice, drain, and restoration. These all fall under the rules of rock, paper, scissors, with drain and restoration being the only two exceptions. Drain lets a yokai absorb the enemy's health, ignoring their defensive stats, and restoration can only be used for healing and isn't considered an attack. Loafing is when a yokai decides not to act during battle, making them vulnerable during attacks which help fill an enemy's soul meter if they are struck. Loafing is common amongst almost all yokai, and the higher their rank, the more likely they are to loaf. It can be prevented by using a book item called A Serious Life, or having a yokai on your team that prevents your team from loafing at all. Soultimates are special abilities that all yokai are capable of using. Upon filling up their soul meter, they can activate their special ability, which have different effects depending on the yokai. Some of these range from abilities that cause massive damage, negatively affecting your enemy team, boosting stats, or even reviving or healing your teammates. Mirapo is a giant sentient mirror with the ability to send the user to any destination they desire. In the games, he's used as a form of fast travel to make getting around the map a lot more convenient as you access bigger areas. You'll have to find a Mirapo and wake them up in order to use them. Despite this, Mirapo can also be friended like most other yokai, and he's very easy to encounter. Nate is the main protagonist of the Yokai Watch series. He's a 10-year-old boy who one day makes a great discovery, that being the existence of yokai. He meets one by the name of Whisper, who gives him the iconic Yokai Watch. Despite having the ability to summon otherworldly spirits that can affect him or the world around him, he's still seen as an average, dull kid, which the show tends to make fun of him for constantly. Even when he decides to use the Yokai Watch and summon yokai for his own personal gain or to affect those around him, it either doesn't lead to anything significant or it inevitably backfires on him, leading to more trouble for him in the long run. Whisper is the second protagonist of the Yokai Watch series. As his name implies, he's a white, wisp-shaped yokai with a big, mischievous grin. He encounters Nate after he's freed from the Crank-a-kai, and introduces himself as a self-proclaimed yokai butler who can guide him and explain anything yokai-related. Despite his confidence, Whisper more often than not gets his information incorrect and relies on a device called the Yokai Pad, which leads to him causing or making problems worse for him and Nate due to his stubborn nature and pride getting in the way of him admitting that he's wrong when he has no idea what he's talking about, and is quick to take credit for anything that he was originally wrong or disagreed with from the beginning. Given his origins, this is a pretty good representation of how wisps were perceived in folklore. He's based off the spirits known as will-o-wisps, creatures that are known in various parts of folklore for guiding people who have gotten lost in forests. The catch with these little guys is that they have a chance of guiding you out of the woods and into safety, or making your situation far worse by putting you in more danger or even leading you to your demise. Despite his flaws, he genuinely cares for Nate and wants to help him in any way he can, even though sometimes his pride and ego gets in the way of that and makes things worse for him. Jibanyan is the third protagonist of the group. He is a cat yokai that resides by an intersection and trains to fight any and all vehicles with a deep disdain for trucks. He's approached by Nate and explains that he was hit by a truck, leading to his owner to refer to him as a lame cat. Ever since then, he became a yokai with no place to go, and given the drastic increase of cat yokai, he's been left with only a small intersection as his home, leading Nate to befriend him and keep him as a roommate. Like any other cat, Jibanyan's lazy, sleeps all day, and usually focuses on whatever he wants. Although it is very easy to influence him with anything involving his favorite snack, Choco Bars, or anything involving his favorite J-pop band, Next Harmony, which he has a very deep and passionate obsession for. The Crank-a-kai is a large gachapon located in Mount Wildwood that's another iconic part of the series. It has appeared in almost every game in the franchise, and is used to obtain items or befriend more yokai to add to your party. It is completely random what you'll get, and you have a limited amount of times to use it per day, and once those are up, the Crank-a-kai vanishes and you'll have to wait one real-world day before you can use it again. Despite its significance, the Crank-a-kai hardly if ever makes an appearance outside of the game, with its only other major appearance being in the very first episode of the anime, where Nate meets Whisper after freeing him from the Crank-a-kai. After that, it never makes an appearance in the anime again, and its only other appearances are in the form of physical merchandise that you could purchase in Japan. Back when Yokai Watch was still new to the West, a lot of people immediately assumed that it was going to be a ripoff. For some, it was because it had a cute animal mascot, others it was because it shared the same genre as Pokemon, and some people just hated it because it was the popular thing to do at the time. And even then, not many people elaborate on it. If they said it was a ripoff, then that's clearly what it was. And even then, it was safe to assume they never saw any gameplay of it, or just flat out refused to. Anything that could disprove their arguments was either shunned or just ignored. Honestly, you'd think people would be more ecstatic to have more takes on the genre. I mean, even if Yokai Watch was, to some extent, a Pokemon ripoff, or maybe a one-in-one knockoff of it, that didn't really stop people before from enjoying games like these. I mean, we have games like Koromon, Nexomon, Monster Crown, which copies the original art style of the early days of Pokemon. And people ate it up. They loved it. It gave them a taste of that nostalgic look and feel of old Pokemon and gave them something new. But with Yokai Watch, it's completely dismissed outright. I mean, even back in the early days, they had the only competitor Pokemon had was Digimon, and that couldn't have been more of a knockoff than anyone imagined. It had Mon in the name of the series. Every creature in that series and franchise had Mon strapped to the end of their name. But yet people loved it. I mean, sure, maybe there was a bit of controversy at the early days of it, but I don't think people cared all that much. Despite these other examples, Yokai Watch still remains with the label of Pokemon ripoff to this day, and it's still kind of unknown why people were so harsh to treat it this way, never really giving it a fair chance once it made its way to the West. It could be as simple as diehard Pokemon fans saw something different and immediately detested it and told everyone it was a ripoff despite not having any evidence outside of cute animal mascot or it shares the same genre as Pokemon, so it's bad and you shouldn't touch it. It could be anything at this point. I never really know with these types of people. The Yokai Watch is a device that grants the user the ability to see yokai, allowing them to interact and communicate with the yokai around them, even coming equipped with a built-in flashlight that lets you reveal any yokai that are trying to remain hidden. As stated before, the Yokai Watch can also be used to summon any yokai you befriended by inserting their medals into the watch, leading to a summoning song playing before they come to your time of need. Just like the medals, the Yokai Watch was also turned into merchandise you could actually buy, and it functioned the same way it did in the games in the anime, allowing you to use the medals you collected on it to summon the yokai, playing the summoning song and announcing the yokai's name. Yokai Watch 2 is the second entry in the game series. The story involves two yokai named Kid and Jin who use their powers to get rid of Nate's watch, causing him to lose all of his knowledge and memories of yokai. He eventually gets them back by reuniting with Whisper and Jibanyan. This time around, this adventure will see Nate travel through time 60 years into the past, where he'll discover the origins of the Yokai Watch, along with teaming up with his grandfather to take down a new antagonist by the name of Dame Deadtime. Yokai Watch 2 was well received and garnered a lot of positive reviews upon release. It really improved a lot on what made the first game great, while also adding new elements to keep it interesting, such as adding new yokai, more areas to explore, and even post-game content. This would also be the first game in the series to start the trend of having two versions upon release, starting with Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. Not much was really different from the two outside of slight alterations to the story and exclusive yokai from each version. Baffle boards are signs that appear all throughout the world. You can reveal them with the yokai watch, and upon interacting with it, it'll give you a quiz. The quizzes always involve figuring out what yokai is needed for the designated spot it's in. Once answered correctly, it'll reveal a spot for that specific yokai to be summoned, leading it to interact or change the environment in some way. Detective Holder is a character who specializes in cases involving criminals. In the games, he tasks the player with dealing with these criminals and informs them on their current whereabouts and how long they'll remain in the areas. He'll also reward the players with wanted points for each criminal they capture. Criminals are yokai that are wanted criminals, consisting of bland palette swaps of pre-existing yokai. They appear in random areas of the map and linger there for a certain amount of time before they escape entirely. You'll have to chase them down and defeat them in battle for them to be captured, but you cannot befriend them by any means. Upon successful capture of a criminal, Detective Holder will come by to take them away, and he'll give you wanted points that you can exchange with him for items. On October 5th, 2015, Yokai Watch would officially air in the West on Disney XD. It's a slice-of-life comedy that focuses on Nate Adams as he tries to live a normal life after discovering the existence of yokai and the device used to summon them. The show usually focuses on Nate meeting or dealing with a new yokai each episode that he needs to get rid of or help them with a problem they're dealing with. Sometimes they'll have episodes that focus on other characters or yokai encountered throughout the series. They also have segments between each episode focusing on side characters, and at the end of each episode, have a recap giving an explanation on the yokai that was introduced in that episode. The series would run for 3 seasons, however we wouldn't get the 3rd season until 2018. Blasters Mode is a new game mode introduced in Yokai Watch 2. Instead of playing as Nate, the player instead takes control of a yokai and explores Terror Time. You can play as any yokai you befriended throughout your playthrough, and they all have different abilities. Each yokai has a role: attacker, tank, healer, or ranger. Attackers focus on offense, tanks absorb damage while protecting teammates, healers replenish health, and rangers have ranged abilities to attack from a distance. This mode would have the player going through Terror Time, fighting yokai and collecting Oni orbs. After a while, the boss of the area would appear and the player would need to defeat them in order to escape Terror Time and complete the mission. Upon completion, the player would be able to use the Oni Crank-a-kai. It would use up all the Oni orbs they've collected and toss a coin into the crank. The more orbs you collect, the higher your chances of a rare prize. This mode can also be played with up to 4 players locally, as long as they have a copy of any version of Yokai Watch 2. Don-chan is a guest character that appeared in Yokai Watch 2. He is a member of the Heartful tribe and can be encountered in a quest given to you by the Talisman Seller at Mount Wildwood. Upon completion of the quest, you'll be able to fight Don-chan for a chance to befriend him at least once per day. Don-chan is the mascot of Taiko no Tatsujin, a rhythm game series created by Bandai Namco. The game has the player hitting drums to the rhythm of various songs that are heard throughout the game. Rare yokai are yokai that are either hard to come by or can only be encountered under specific requirements. Some of the ways you can encounter a rare yokai include obtaining them from the Crank-a-kai, randomly encountering them in battle, and on small occasions, finding them in specific parts of the overworld map. You'll know you've befriended a rare yokai when you see a gold border around their medal and the word rare next to their nameplate. Nexar Meowni is a fictional idol pop band that makes frequent appearances throughout the series. The team consists of 5 members named Fiona, Reina, Solana, and Aria. They usually make cameos, but on occasion, they'll have a major role in an episode. In 2014, an idol group by the name of AKB48 will create a subgroup called Nya-KB with Tsuchinoko Panda. This group will be responsible for making the 3rd ending song of the Yokai Watch anime series called Idol wa Unyanya no Ken. A summoning song is a tune that plays when a yokai is being summoned with the Yokai Watch. Each yokai tribe has a song that represents their overall personality and vibe. From upbeat and peppy to energetic and loud, these summoning songs would be a mainstay with almost every iteration of the Yokai Watch as the series continued.
Summoning Charming! Boom boom walla walla dance dance Charming!
The Yokai Cam is a feature that's exclusive to Yokai Watch 1 and 2. It lets you use the 3DS camera to take pictures of people, or even images of people, to see what yokai inspirits them. Once you take a picture of someone, you won't be able to get a different yokai from the same person or image. You can also get rewards by completing missions in this mode, or by taking pictures of specific yokai. Timers and More is a watch shop that you can go to rank up your yokai watch. Just like yokai, your watch also has a rank as well, starting off at rank D. You'll be able to increase your watch rank as you progress through the story. The owner of the watch shop, Mr. Goodsight, will give you a quest that'll have you battle 3 strong yokai as a test of strength. Upon success, he'll increase the rank of your watch to the next eligible rank. Increasing the rank will let you see stronger yokai and also help you access areas blocked off by watch locks. Yokai Watch Land is a mobile app released in the West for iPhone and Android. It was released to coincide with the yokai medals Hasbro released around the time. The player could take their medals, scan the QR codes on the back, and add them to their collection. It even had a feature that let you take pictures of the yokai you collected along with being able to play minigames. These minigames included a bucket minigame where you help Whisper collect Crank-a-kai coins, one that has Robonion collect coins and cocoa beans to make choco bars, a capsule minigame that has you clear through checkpoints in a certain amount of time, and a pinball/pachinko hybrid that has you use yokai medals as a pinball. Unfortunately, the app would be delisted from stores on December 31st, 2018. However, anyone who still has the app installed on their devices would still be able to use all of its features and play the minigames, but once it's deleted, they would not be able to reinstall it. Yokai Watch Wibble Wobble is a mobile app that released in the West on March 24th, 2016. It's a Connect 3 puzzle game where you use Wibwobs of yokai to battle and clear stages. The yokai on your team share one big pool of health, but their strength and power are exclusive to each individual yokai. In this game, yokai have advantages and disadvantages against other tribes, which can affect your chances of winning in battle. You can also get more yokai by playing through stages and trying to befriend them, or by paying 3,000 wine money and spinning the Crank-a-kai. On May 31st, 2018, the game would be delisted from app stores and the servers would shut down, making it completely unplayable. However, if you still want to play Wibble Wobble, the Japanese version is still up and available, and it's pretty easy to get access to. Puni Puni is the Japanese version of Wibble Wobble. It's pretty much the same as the English version, with the only difference being having different events, more collaborations, and a whole slew of new ranks exclusive to the game. This game is still pretty big in Japan and has had tons of success in events over the years. It's been around for at least 7 years now and seems to be going strong to this day. Kama-san is a lion dog with a deep interest in the human world. A few centuries ago, he was once the guardian of a shrine until it was destroyed, leading him to wander the city and learn more about the culture of humans. He's considered a country bumpkin and has no experience or knowledge of the modern age. Despite this, he's always enjoying learning new things and loves meeting new people on his travels. He's a very kind and peaceful yokai, always choosing to avoid conflict or refusing to get violent in most situations. Kama-san is based off the Japanese yokai by the name of Komainu. They are noble holy spirits who protect gates and sacred areas from evil spirits. They're always seen in pairs, with one being male and the other female. Komajiro is the younger twin brother of Koma-san. He's more streetwise and experienced than his older brother, but still greatly admires him and always looks up to him. So much so that he always believes what Koma-san is saying, even when Koma-san doesn't even know what he's talking about half the time. Komajiro is the more outgoing and extroverted of the two, but shares his curiosity for the big city and exploring the world around him. Trading is another feature in the Yokai Watch series. As the name implies, this feature allows players to trade locally or through online connections. Once connected, players can simply select which yokai they want to trade, then once they're selected and everyone agrees with the trade, the yokai are traded off and added to their copy of the game. In the community, there are 2 types of trades: touch trades and permanent trades. Touch trades are for trading yokai just to add them to that person's medallion and then trade them back afterwards, while permanent trades are obviously permanent. Everyone keeps what they have. Gara Gara Po is the main theme of the Yokai Watch anime. Its name translates to the Ha 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 song and was made by a band named King Cream Soda. It became insanely popular upon release and would quickly be associated with the Yokai Watch franchise. The song would be so successful that they would make a few variations and covers of it as the series continued, one of which being exclusively made for Yokai Watch 4. Mr. E is a bit of a weird character in the Yokai Watch games. He tends to just exist in weird places and says a lot of weird things sometimes. He can also help out the player by giving them items at specific points in the games, starting with Yokai Watch 2, where he can give you a select a coin, as long as you have photos from Yokai Watch 1 on your save file. He can also give you access to the trophy room, so you can see all the achievements you've unlocked. In the final update for Yokai Watch 2, Oni Evolution, he gives you a key that lets you unlock the Mystery Way dungeon. And in Yokai Watch 3, he can give you admission to a place called the Ambrosia Pavilion, where you can get rare items and encounter rare yokai there. Outside of these instances, he doesn't really have much significance and has only made appearances in 3 mainline games, but he's very enigmatic and mysterious with not much known about him. He can see yokai and nonchalantly brings up stuff about the game that borders on breaking the fourth wall sometimes. His last appearance was in Yokai Watch 3, and he hasn't made any appearance anywhere else since. 101 Leafy is a YouTuber and Nintendo ambassador that used to make content around Yokai Watch back in the day. He even made a website for Yokai Watch called Mount Wildwood that sadly hasn't been updated in years and just serves as a relic of the past. Since we haven't had much happen with the Yokai Watch series in the West, there wasn't really much for him to talk about in the series. However, he's still very much active in the Yokai Watch community and even streams events in Puni Puni on occasions. Abdullah Smash is a Let's Player that mainly focuses on Nintendo games. He was one of the bigger YouTubers in the Yokai Watch community to the point where he was able to get interviews with people that worked at level 5 and even got updates on games like Yokai Watch 3. He made tons of guides on every Yokai Watch video in the series, especially the ones that were never localized like Sengoku or Yokai Watch 4. Nowadays, he just continues playing games and doing streams for his viewers. Even without Yokai Watch content, he still gets a ton of views and seems to be doing quite well for himself. Oni Evolution will be the name of the final update released for Yokai Watch 2. This expansion would add new content along with new yokai to befriend, in anticipation for Yokai Watch Psychic Spectres. Some of these new yokai added will be Jibanyan and Komasan S, with Jibanyan S being exclusive to Bony Spirits, and Komasan S being exclusive to Fleshy Souls. Blasters Mode would also get new content in the form of 2 new Big Boss yokai, with Bony Spirit players being able to fight Rubius J and Fleshy Soul players being able to fight Hardy Hound. They would also add a new yokai named Snardo, who's obsessed with picking his nose that you could fight daily, and who appears randomly throughout the maps. You can also use both versions of Yokai Watch 2 to link up with Psychic Spectres and gain access to an exclusive new Mystery Way dungeon, which also has a rare Krinkakai that'll give you a chance at befriending the Julanyans. Robanyan is a robotic cat yokai that shares a striking resemblance to Jibanyan. In the anime, he's Jibanyan from the future who, upon losing Nate, converts himself into a robot to get rid of his emotions. He's capable of time travel via portals, shapeshifting into appliances and other forms of transportation, can fire his fists like projectile weapon, and even has a chocobar production inside of his body. For some reason, the games go completely against this bit of lore by saying he's a robot that thinks he's Jibanyan, but other than that, everything about him is still the same. If it wasn't obvious, he's a huge reference to the Terminator series, specifically the T-800 model, with examples such as traveling from the future, shouting the quote, "I'll be back," his ability to shapeshift, and his theme song sounding very similar to the theme from Terminator. Katie is one of Nate's friends that are often seen throughout the series. Katie is a young girl that attends Springdale Elementary, who's kind, playful, and popular among her classmates. She's also Nate's love interest, and despite being friends, she doesn't seem to notice any of his feelings towards her. Katie has a surprising amount of significance to the series. In Yokai Watch 1 and 2, you can select her as the main protagonist instead of Nate. She also has a different form of Yokai Watch, with this one being made to look like a necklace instead of an actual watch. There were actually a few times in the series where they played into the idea of her having a yokai watch. They even made a what if episode in the anime showing what would happen if Katie met Whisperer instead of Nate. Bear is another one of Nate's closest friends. He's a bigger kid compared to everyone else and is more of a gentle giant, always being polite and enjoying spending time with his friends whenever he can. There really isn't much known beyond surface level stuff. Apart from Katie, all of Nate's other friends would be less involved in episodes as time went on, being reduced to brief cameos and appearances. Eddie is the final member of Nate's friend group. He's from a more upper-class home compared to the other two, and is very passionate about the technological world. He can be a bit showboaty when it comes to showing off his possessions, but overall, he's a nice, calm, and collected person who enjoys spending time with his friends. Fusion is another mainstay of the series. Fusion lets you take 2 items, be it yokai metals or items, and fuse them into new materials, some of which are exclusive to the fusion process. Other than that, it's pretty much your basic fusion that would be in any other RPG. King Cream Soda is a 3-member band consisting of 2 males and 1 female. Their music style is a mix of pop, reggae, with the occasional rock and western influence. They're mostly known for making songs for the Yokai Watch anime and game series, with their biggest example being Gira Gira Pep. They became really popular after the release of that song in 2014, which paved the way of them making more songs for the series to this day, with their most recent song being made for the Y School Hero anime series. Legendary yokai are beings that are of high nobility and are known far and wide for their feats. These yokai can only be befriended by collecting specific yokai in your medallion to break the seal of that specific yokai. There is a legendary yokai that represents all 8 tribes, each with their own unique abilities and powers given to those worthy of their medal. Seal yokai are yokai needed to unlock seals of legendaries. Each page for the legendary yokai have 8 medal slots, but not every page reveals all the yokai needed. So after a certain point, it becomes trial and error on what yokai you need to befriend. Some yokai need specific conditions met, while others have a very small appearance rate, and others can only be obtained through trading. It can be very tedious after a certain point, but the legendary yokai make the effort worth it.
Don't let that yokai touch the remote. Yokai Watch will be right back on Disney XD. Now back to Yokai Watch on Disney XD.
While it's common knowledge that Jibanyan is based off the yokai Nekomata from Japanese folklore, there's a bit of a personal touch added to his origin stories on how he became a yokai. In a Destructoid article released on December 2nd, 2015, they had an interview with Akihiro Hino, the creator of Yokai Watch, where he elaborated more on the origins of Jibanyan. He stated in the interview that the idea of Jibanyan came from a personal experience of his. He passed by a stray cat on his way home from work and thought about taking him in, but was unsure if he could handle having a cat at the time. Moments later, he changed his mind, and upon returning back to the cat, he discovered that it was already struck by a car moments after he left it. And as a result, Jibanyan would be born from this tragic incident. Wayfarer Manor is a small apartment complex that appears throughout the series. It can be used to encounter yokai by using Street Pass with others who also own a copy of Yokai Watch. You'll be able to battle the yokai of other people you've met through Street Pass, and upon beating them, they'll reward you with an item. On very rare occasions, you can also befriend these yokai in this way as well, with legendary and S-rank yokai being the exception. As stated earlier, this is the only way to encounter and befriend Pantanoki. You don't need to reach a specific number of Street Passes to encounter him, but his rates to appear are very low along with his chances to befriend you. In Yokai Watch 1 and 2, there's an exploit you could do that would let you battle certain yokai as many times as you wanted. Specifically, yokai that can only be fought once per day. Basically, if you saved before talking to them and initiating battle, you'd be able to retry by going back to the title screen and loading the save again until they gave you their medal. This would make befriending those types of yokai a lot easier since you can go back to your previous save upon failure instead of waiting an entire day after each attempt. This exploit will be patched in later entries by having the player automatically save when initiating battle with a daily yokai. The yokai world, as the name implies, is a realm entirely populated by yokai. Despite this realm being made up of mostly otherworldly beings and restless spirits, they're not too different from the human world, having their own businesses, stores, and even a justice system. They also have advanced technology that's far beyond what humans are currently capable of, with the biggest example being the Yokai Watch itself. It's pretty obvious that humans would have limited access to the yokai world, with it being only accessible to those with a yokai watch or those that are a yokai themselves. Lucas is a bit of an interesting character. Although he doesn't have too many appearances throughout the series, he has great significance to the lore. Before the events of Yokai Watch 1, Ancient Emma would try to produce an heir to the throne to take over in his stead before his passing. In their culture, only the male members of the Enma tribe were able to rule over the yokai world with the title of Lord Enma. The problem he kept running into was that he was producing daughters mostly. It wouldn't be until one of his daughters would give him a grandson where he would finally have a suitable heir to the throne, this being the current Lord Enma we see throughout the games. By the time he was actually able to produce a son, it was already too late as Ancient Enma's grandson would claim the throne and power that would come with the title of Lord Enma, leaving Lucas's Enma power in a dormant state. Once Ancient Enma finally passed on, McCracken was quick to usurp the throne and take over the yokai world and usher in a new age of yokai supremacy. To protect them, they sent Lucas to the human world to ensure his safety from a kraken, and ever since that day, he's been living amongst the humans, living a normal life. Even if he doesn't have the strength and power the Enma tribe is known for, he has the innate ability to have prophetic dreams and visions of the future that occasionally help out Nate on his adventures throughout the world. Despite his deep-rooted history with the Enma lineage, he doesn't have too many significant appearances throughout the games, with his only major role being in Yokai Watch 1, with his only other appearances in the games being in Yokai Watch 2 and 3 and optional sub-quest missions. Kin and Jin are the loyal henchmen of Dame Deadtime. They're purely evil and malicious yokai that do whatever they can to achieve their goals. Kin is the oldest sister and has the ability to manipulate time with a device called a time stone that can be used to send people to any point in history. While Jin is the youngest sibling, she has incredible power but must be in close proximity of her older sister to be able to use them at all. They also possess the ability to create wicked servants to carry out their biddings, but despite their power, they much prefer to manipulate their opponents and only fight when absolutely necessary. Kin and Jin have appeared in all versions of Yokai Watch 2, Yokai Watch the movie, and their most recent appearance being in Yokai Watch Puni Puni as befriendable bosses. Diana Gately is a researcher at the Gourd Pond Museum who studies the gates of whimsy in hopes that they'll solve the housing crisis. She has special glasses made by Mr. Goodsight that lets her see yokai and the whimsy gates that are hidden all over Springdale. She's very energetic and pushy, and tends to dump most of her work onto the player when it comes to finding the gates of whimsy. Apart from that, she doesn't really have much significance to the story, only appearing in Yokai Watch 2 and 3 in supporting roles, and never really making an appearance in any other form of media. The Gates of Whimsy are doors that take you to random areas in the game. The locations are familiar, but have a more rainbow warp vibe to them. You can find these doors scattered all over Springdale by using your Yokai Watch to reveal them. Upon entering a Whimsy Gate, you'll be forced to complete a challenge before you can leave the area. These challenges range from battle rooms, speed rooms, expert rooms, and bazaar rooms. Battle rooms will have you fight 3 different yokai, speed rooms will have you race to the exit under a limited time, expert rooms will have you fight 1 strong yokai, and bazaar rooms trigger random events that are exclusive to the Gates of Whimsy. Upon completing these events, you'll be given a Whimsy Orb that you'll be able to use on the bigger gates in the museum that'll let you access more rooms within it. Big bosses are incredibly powerful yokai that you encounter throughout your playthroughs in the games, unsurprisingly, as bosses. On top of being strong and having a high amount of health, they're also immune to most negative spirits and cannot be befriended in any way. Gutsy Bones is one of many big boss yokai. He's a giant skeleton that is always accompanied by a giant crankakai machine that it uses during his fights. The capsule machine is capable of causing various effects to your team as the fight goes on. He can cause fire damage with red capsules, cause negative spirits with purple capsules, and heal himself or your teammates with a green capsule. During the fight, he summons crows holding coins so he can use the crankakai. If you were to target these crows on screen with the pin, they'll drop the coin and fly away, making Gutsy Bones lose a turn. This tactic makes the boss fight way easier than it already is. Gutsy Bones is based off the yokai of Japanese folklore, Gashidokaru, a giant skeleton that is the amalgamation of soldiers that have fallen in battle but could not pass on due to not receiving a proper burial. Feeling nothing but anger and pain within their afterlife, they've taken the form of Gashidokaru to take out their frustrations among the living. Given how Gashidokaru and Gashapon sound similar, they decided to let him keep this name, only changing the spelling and giving him a capsule machine in his design to add on to the pun. His name wouldn't be changed until he was localized outside of Japan. Mangima is a yokai of the Erie tribe who is a mix between a human and a dog. He was once a human who worked a normal office job, who drank his sorrows away one night and ran into a wooden fence that ended up toppling over him and a poodle that was strolling by, and as a result, turned him into a yokai. What makes Mangima interesting is the fact that he's one of the rare few yokai that are visible to all humans, meaning anyone can interact with him, regardless of whether or not they have a yokai watch or the ability to see yokai. This leads to him getting into trouble more often than not, due to the fact that people are either put off by his appearance and cause mass hysteria, or due to the fact of him being a genuine nuisance to society. Either way, it always ends up with him being arrested. Even with all that, he's mostly a harmless yokai that just keeps to himself and does whatever he can to get by, although he can get himself into trouble due to him being a bit of a pervert sometimes.
In Yokai Watch 2, there is a random chance you'll encounter a man who will stop you and ask you to hold an item for him. He entrusts you with a red box and surely tells the player to never open it. If you hold on to it without opening it, eventually the man will return and ask for it back, and you can choose whether or not to give it to him. If you do decide to give it back to him, he'll reward you with an item. These range from either a book, a Crank-a-kai coin, or a coin fragment. Whenever you decide to open the box or say no to the man after he asks for it back, he'll get upset with you and inflict you with a curse. These curses have a random effect on the player, and while they don't affect gameplay drastically, they can be a bit of a minor inconvenience. These effects range from having the character trip very often for the next 30 minutes even when they're not running, having them fart uncontrollably for 30 minutes, having an afro for 30 minutes, having hearts come out of them for an hour, having your character transformed into a dog through a dream sequence called Canine Time, and on the very rare chance, you can find a level 70 Cerberus in the box that will attack you. This is the only way you can find this character and befriend him too. In the games, you'll have a random chance to encounter Terror Time. A timer on your watch will count down to 3 and show a symbol of a demon before sending you there. This realm is controlled by a giant Oni named Gargaros who searches the area for anyone who happens to stumble in. You'll have to escape Terror Time by finding a gold door that leads you back to your world, all while being pursued by Gargaros and his patrol eyes. You'll also encounter Oni orbs throughout the entire area, and it is heavily advised to get as many as you can without getting caught. If you successfully escape Terror Time, you'll be able to use your Oni orbs on the Oni Crank-a-kai, and the more orbs you have, the better your prizes will be.
Gargaros is a giant red Oni who guards over Terror Time. Being one of the more powerful entities in the yokai world, he's always seen with a giant iron club he uses on anyone who angers him. He may be intimidating and downright scary to the residents of the yokai world, but he doesn't just target them. He also goes after misbehaving children, sending them to Terror Time to punish them however he sees fit. In Yokai Watch 1 and 3, you can actually trigger a boss fight with them in Terror Time if you manage to get caught by them. They're more than likely to wipe out your team, but if you do manage to defeat him, he doesn't drop anything besides XP, but he will be replaced by another Oni with drastically different difficulty, those being Orgulus and Orcanos in that order, with Orcanos being the more difficult, even capable of wiping out teams that are max level in the game. Obviously, Gargaros' design is based off Oni of Japanese folklore. In folklore, Oni are commonly portrayed as vile evil brutes who torture humans for sheer enjoyment. Some are even enlisted in the ranks of Great Enma's army and carry out specific torments on the humans who have been sentenced to one of the many layers of hell. Mystery Way is a bonus dungeon that can be unlocked in Yokai Watch 2. It can be accessed by linking a version of Yokai Watch that's different from the one you currently own. There are 3 versions of Mystery Way that you can unlock depending on which versions you link together. If you link a copy of Fleshy Souls to your game, you'll unlock the dungeon Fleshy Way. If you use Bony Spirits, you'll unlock Bony Way. And in Psychic Spectres, you can unlock an entirely new dungeon called Golden Gleaming Highway, which is unlocked by linking both Fleshy Souls and Bony Spirits to your copy of Psychic Spectres. To access the dungeons, you'll have to go to San Fantastico near the abandoned house and talk to Mr. E. He'll give you a key to access the dungeon depending on which versions of the game you linked with. Each dungeon has a different path for you to take, all with different types of yokai that you can encounter, some of which that are exclusive to this area only. Every Mystery Way dungeon ends with a boss fight. Depending on which dungeon you chose, you'll either encounter Goldie Bones, Glitzy Bones, Retinado, or Hans Galore at the end of it. No matter which one you defeat, they all drop a special Crank-a-kai coin, which can be used on the Crank-a-kai exclusively in the Mystery Way dungeon. You can only encounter these boss fights and use the crank once per day, but you can enter the dungeon as many times as you'd like. You can also encounter the Oni trio, Gargaros, Orgulus, and Orcanos. You can talk to them and initiate battle, but just like the Crank-a-kai in the boss fights, you can only fight them once per day for a chance to befriend them. Dr. Madaman is a mad scientist yokai who's constantly searching for new test subjects, be they human, animals, or even other yokai. Before he died, he was originally a human that used to work at the Nocturne Hospital before it became run down and abandoned. After the birth of his son, he decided that he would do anything to protect his family, and he thought to do that by taking over the world. His idea to make this goal a reality was to create the ultimate life form, which he would call Amatera.
he would spend countless hours working on this project and would even go as far as to experiment on his own patients to further his research. He'd get so caught up in his work that he would start to neglect his family, which would start to take a toll on them. By the time he realized his mistake, it was already too late, and they decided to abandon him. Despite that, he managed to complete his research on Amatera, but at that point he felt like his creation lost all purpose and meaning due to the fact that the people it was made to protect were no longer in his life. Sometime afterwards he would die and he would come back as a yokai, losing all of his memories of his past life, continuing to work on his research and Amatera, still bent on taking over the world. Dr. Madaman has always been one of the more interesting big boss yokai in my perspective. Not many have much of their lore explored like him, and most of the bosses have simple explanations of what they are and what they do, but they never really go into explanation on how they came to be. In Blossom Heights, there is a Buddhist temple that lets you use the feature Sorcery. Sorcery is the process of turning yokai into souls that can give you bonuses in battle. You can take a yokai medal and convert it into a soul. Depending on the yokai or the tribe, you can get a different effect, such as gaining more XP or money in battle, increasing your chances of befriending yokai, or even drastically improving your stats. You'll have to be careful though, because once you use a medal in Sorcery, it's gone for good and you'll have to befriend that yokai all over again. Sergeant Burley is an Oni-like yokai who is obsessed with exercising. He is a strict and intense exercise coach who is very passionate about training other people and helping them thrive through routine training and self-improvement with his famous training regimen called Sergeant Burley's Beat Camp. He's a strict and intense exercise coach who is very passionate about training other people and helping them thrive through routine training and self-improvement with his famous training regimen called Sergeant Burley's Beat Camp. Despite how intense his training can be, he's actually quite beloved and deeply appreciated by those who've trained under him, praising him for his charisma, optimistic attitude, and strong leadership, never giving up on those who truly wish to see the full potential of their training. Sergeant Burley is based on a man by the name of Billy Blanks. He was a fitness guru that created the Taibo exercise program, which was very popular in Japan and was given the nickname Captain Billy. This is what inspired Sergeant Burley's name along with his character design, with Burley having his iconic yellow gloves that Billy would use during his training regimens, along with having him use his iconic hand motions during exercises, with Burley's Beat Camp even being a direct reference to Billy's boot camp as well. The Yokai Watch movie is the series' first adventure on the big screen and expands a bit more on the origins of the Yokai Watch. The plot involves the trio going back in time to prevent the disappearance of the Yokai Watch in the present, and in the process they meet Nate's grandfather, Nathaniel Adams, who is discovered to be the original creator of the Yokai Watch. The plot is very similar to the plot of Yokai Watch 2 with some slight alterations. The movie was released in Japan on December 20th, 2014, with a limited theatrical release in the West on October 15th, 2016, only being shown for that day only, while France had showings from August 6th to August 9th, 1 year after the movie released in the West. Interestingly enough, if you showed up for the theatrical release of the movie in the West, you were given an exclusive Hovering-on Yomotion medal that you can only obtain there, while France got the medal and the Jabonyon visor. The Yokai Watch Model 0 is the earliest prototype of the watch ever conceived. It was made by Nate's grandfather and has the features that became staples for the watch, like the Yokai light that reveals yokai. This Yokai Watch has a slightly different functionality compared to the others. Upon inserting a yokai medal, an instrumental version of that yokai's tribe's summoning song will begin to play, and it will require you to switch the crank up a notch to finish the summoning. Aside from the movie, the Model 0 has appeared in Yokai Watch 2 and the second season of the anime, but it's mainly used to summon classic yokai, with some exceptions like Jabonyon. They would also make physical merchandise of the Yokai Watch Model 0 as well, along with a whole new series of medals specifically made just for the watch. Yomotion medals were a series of yokai medals made for the Hasbro version of the Yokai Watch Model 0. They have a green border and 3 holes on the edge of the medal. This was a feature exclusive to the Western releases of the medals, which is where the Yomotion title gets its name. When you insert the yokai medal in the watch and use the flashlight feature, you can see a small animation of the yokai using their soultimate move. Each series had 34 medals with 1 legendary medal and 6 classic yokai medals. There were 4 series of these medals released, but the US only received Series 1 and 2. Series 1 through 3 were released in France, Spain, and Italy, with Series 4 only releasing in Latin America and Spain. They only made one more series of medals called Yomotion x 2. These were the very last thing they ever released for the Model Zero, mostly due to backlash, since they added even more holes for the Yo Motion feature, which shrunk the original image of the art. These were released in 2018 and were only sold in Latin America and certain parts of Europe. These medals even included U medals, American medals, and even had some Bosch/Blaster medals. Promotional medals were released before and after the series made its debut in the West. These were medals that you could obtain by attending special events, buying merchandise as packaged with a medal, or even spending a certain amount of money at stores. The most notable example include Positive Fury Jibanyan, which was obtained by pre-ordering the first Yokai Watch game, and the Hovernyan medal that was obtained by watching the theatrical release of the movie. There were a whole slew of other yokai medals they released for certain events, some examples including Liberated Yan, which you could obtain at San Diego Comic-Con 2016, Next Harmony Jibanyan, and the Directator, which was at certain events in Italy. Early in the series, they would release medals that would come packaged in 3DS games starting with Yokai Watch 2, having each version of the game come with a medal. They would do this for almost every game on the 3DS, and most recently had one for Yokai Watch 4. However, in the West, we would only get this treatment with Yokai Watch 2 Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls, since the only watches we had at the time were the OG watch and the Model Zero. We never got any of the other watches localized. In Yokai Watch 2, there was a feature with the Model Zero called poking. When an enemy is negatively inspirited, they could be poked. When poking them, it lets you tap the yokai on the touchscreen, and that can result in different effects depending on where you target them. Poking can let you damage the yokai, obtain more money and XP from them at the end of battle, or fill up your soultimates more quickly. You could even increase your chances of befriending them too. Moxie was an ability in Yokai Watch 2 that could strengthen soultimate moves during battle. This was used by using the Model Zero and activating a yokai soultimate. This will require 2 yokai with full soultimate meters to charge and increase the strength of the move. Despite the cost, it wasn't always worth it in most battles. It was usually easier to just save all your soultimates so you can get multiple attacks in at once, or heal and revive your teammates in stressful situations, especially against strong yokai and bosses in endgame content. Hovernyan is a cat yokai that was introduced in Yokai Watch 2. As his name implies, he's capable of flying, and was best friends with Nate's grandfather and helped him create the Yokai Watch, Model Zero. He's a very heroic yokai and strives to protect those in need and let justice prevail, like the superheroes he idolizes. He has a bit of a childish side to him, always making his own sound effects and doing the simplest actions in very dramatic ways. But he's always determined to show others just how strong he is and takes battles very seriously. Darkinyan is a transformed version of Hovernyan. He gained this ability during the movie after combining with all of Nathaniel's yokai friends. He's gained the ability to transform at will ever since. He's a more dark, edgy, and brooding version of Hovernyan's heroic side, and is an obvious parody to Batman from his dark colors and brooding personality. He even has a side quest in Yokai Watch Psychic Spectres that parodies the origin story of Batman as well. Private Wisprocrates was the title given to Whisper before he became a yokai butler. During the Sengoku period, before he was trapped in the Crankakai, he was a tactician for the army of Shogun Wadington. He would inspirit his master and help make decisions on the fly and take his army to victory despite being a know-nothing. His strategies were near perfect, and he became a massive help to their war efforts, even though most of them were bluffs. He would continue to serve Wadington until his untimely end in the unavoidable battle of Sekigahara. In the Sengoku period, Whisper was originally a yokai named No-Nut. Anyone he inspirited would become a know-it-all who talks as if they know everything, despite having no evidence or anything to back up what they're saying. He had little to no control over his ability, leading him to cause trouble for a lot of people in the village he resided in. His most frequent victim was a young boy named Naoto. Due to this, he would become an outcast, leading everyone to ignore everything he had to say, assuming he would be lying. One day, Whisper got him into trouble by making him spout lies, claiming to know the location of a legendary sword. This would catch the attention of Shogun Wadington, who requested Naoto to guide him to the sword. Naoto soon confessed that he was under the influence of a yokai, and Wadington's advisor sensed the yokai as well. Shogun Wadington would then look towards the waterfall and discover that the sword was just light reflecting from a waterfall. This led him to believe that No-Nut was a wise yokai, and asked him to join his army as a tactician. Ever since then, he's helped Shogun Wadington's army reach new heights and achieve victory without fail, despite mostly bluffing. He would spend years loyally following his master, giving him advice and perfect strategic genius that would help them win any battle imaginable. He was given the name Wispocrates to represent his role as a master tactician. Unfortunately, their time together wouldn't last for much longer, as Shogun waiting him would prepare for the biggest war of his life, the Battle of Sekigahara. Knowing this battle might be his last, Whisper tries to confess to Waitington and admits that he's just a yokai named Know Nuttin, whose ability makes people make up lies and bluffs that have no weight to them. Despite this, he didn't care. He saw Whisper as a wonderful ally and a true friend, and for his final request, he asked Whisper to inspirit him. Knowing that this would be his very last battle, he wanted to make sure his legacy would make history and accept his fate by giving his final order to his best friend. Ever since that day, Whisper has suffered from survivor's guilt, which led him to rely on his yokai pad. Apart from it helping him keep his power in check, it could also be possible that he relies on it to prevent hurting anyone else he cares about ever again. The Wicked are a new tribe that debuted in Yokai Watch 2, and were created by Dame Deadtime. Wicked yokai mainly consist of classic yokai possessed by evil spirits called Wicked Servants, which are more aggressive and malicious. When defeated in battle, the spirit that possessed the classic yokai will be revealed. There are 3 wicked spirits that can possess them. Their names are Flicker, Schemer, and Loiter. They cannot be befriended in battle and don't even have entries in the medallion. Possessed wicked yokai have entries in the medallion, but are not befriendable either. The Wicked Elites are the strongest part of Dame Deadtime's army. These elites are physical embodiments of her negative traits, specifically her sadness, frustration, desperation, distrust, anger, and rage. In a way, they are like her children. Unfairy is the youngest of the group. She enjoys playing with her victims and, as her name suggests, tends to play with an unfair advantage and loathes being a nuisance to those she encounters. Unkind loves nothing more than causing suffering to others, and is very sadistic. She doesn't rely on her looks to get what she wants, and usually is more than willing to get her hands dirty in battle. Untidy is a hulking beast of a yokai with incredible strength and durability. Despite his name, he doesn't really have any traits that would hint at him being untidy. He's not really much of a meathead, and doesn't show any traits that would show him as incompetent or dumb. Unpleasant is the eldest of the group. He enjoys causing confusion to others with long words and using very obscure information. Unkeen is the leader of the elites, having incredible strength and a near insatiable desire for destruction. He sees it as his sole purpose in life to destroy anything and everything that stands in his way. These yokai would play a huge role in Yokai Watch 2, but were not befriendable despite the fact they also have entries in the medallion. Venoct is an elite yokai known for his strength and prowess. He uses his serpent-like scarves in battle to protect those who can't protect themselves. Before he became a yokai, he was a young boy in a village that was burnt down and destroyed by a monstrous being. His desire for vengeance was so strong, it led to him becoming a yokai himself. He has a very serious demeanor and stoic personality, which leads to him coming off as standoffish towards those around him. Despite his demeanor, he's very honorable and cherishes the few bonds he develops with others. He shares a similar personality to QB, although he lacks his arrogance and manipulative nature. QB is a kitsune yokai that is the guardian of Springdale. Just like Venoct, he's a proud and strong warrior who tries to help those in need. However, he can be rather unpleasant to those around him. He can come off as cold, harsh, and is very narcissistic and self-centered. Despite his cold personality, he still cares for his home and will do whatever he can to protect it and those who inhabit it. Classic yokai are the earliest evidence to the existence of yokai in the series. They have existed for so long that they can be seen by humans without using a yokai watch or having the special ability to see them. They're based on yokai from traditional folklore to the extent that most of them have the same Japanese name. When they debuted in Yokai Watch 2, they could only be found and befriended in the past, and became more common in the present in later entries. They have medals referred to as classic medals. These medals have a red border around them and have the yokai drawn in traditional Japanese art, but can only be used on the Model 0. The Infinite Inferno is a post-game dungeon that's unlocked by beating the game. It houses really strong yokai and has rare yokai that you can only encounter here. There are 9 layers to this dungeon, with each one more difficult than the last. At the end of each layer, you'll encounter a boss. Most of them are just palace walks of pre-existing bosses you fought in the main story, but are much more difficult to fight. Wobble Walk is the final boss of the Infinite Inferno. He's one of the most difficult bosses in the game, capable of negatively inspiriting your entire team with random effects, and has strong elemental attacks as well. He also has the ability to change what attacks affect him mid-battle. If his eyes are red, then he can only be hit by physical attacks. If they change to blue, then he can only be hit by techniques, so you'll have to make sure you have a team that can do both types of damage for each situation. Wobblewalk is considered to be one of the most dangerous entities in the entire series. He's the amalgamation of dead souls who have died in battle, which is why he remains sealed in the deepest parts of the Infinite Inferno. He's sealed away and put to sleep to prevent him from causing any form of damage. He's so powerful, in fact, that his seals being slightly undone is enough to have severe side effects on the world, leading to Springdale being trapped in an endless summer vacation until he is dealt with. Despite this, Wobblewalk doesn't seem to be malicious in any way. He has so much power stirring up in that little pot of his that he genuinely can't contain it all, leading him to cause a lot of damage. Even if he's not evil, it can't be denied that he is a being that can cause severe damage if left unchecked for too long. Which makes it even funnier that he's a playable character in this game. During your fight with him, there is a chance you'll be able to obtain some of his essence as an item. If you obtain it, you can take it all the way to where the Fleshy Souls and Bony Spins had their fight earlier in the game. Go to where the rocks are, there's a little monument where you can use the item on it, and once you do, a little version of him pops out and immediately starts imprinting on you. After that, you'll unlock his medal and you'll be able to add him to your team. You'll be able to have your own cute little abomination who can't contain any of his power, just for you. The Divine Paradise is the second endgame dungeon in Yokai Watch 2. You can access this by completing the final layer of the Infinite Inferno and defeating Wobblewalk. Upon defeat, a silk rope will fall down and they will be able to climb it. This layer has the same rules as the Infinite Inferno, with it having multiple layers you'll need to climb, but at the end of each layer, there'll be a boss, which is also a reskin of pre-existing bosses you fought previously in the game. Cat Cradle is the final boss of the Divine Paradise and is by far the hardest boss in Yokai Watch 2. She does insane damage, has strong elemental attacks, and is capable of stopping the yokai wheel from turning, which prevents you from swapping out your team altogether. You'll have to make sure you have a max level team just to even stand a chance against her. Not much really happens after you defeat her outside of getting a holy XP orb, but if you do fight her enough times, you do have a small chance of getting one of the rarest items in the game, that being a Paradise Ball. The Paradise Ball has a 1% chance to spawn upon defeating Cat Cradle. It's an equipable item that has the effect to give the user defense and speed plus 50, but can only be equipped by yokai of B rank or lower. Psychic Spectres is the third definitive version of Yokai Watch 2. This version adds new content like the Hexpress, Garagara Resort, new yokai, bosses, and quests to experience. If you have data from Bony Spirits or Fleshy Souls, you can link it and transfer the data so you don't have to start the game over again. It also makes the Wicked Tribe befriendable, including the Wicked Elites. Depending on which version of the game you link to Psychic Spectres, you can befriend either Komasan S or your Banyo S. But if you link both versions of the game to Psychic Spectres, you'll be able to befriend Komajiro S as well. Kabuking is another endgame boss that was added in Psychic Spectres. He's in second running for the hardest boss in the game, only being rivaled by Cat Cradle. His attacks deal massive damage. He's capable of dealing full damage to your entire row, and he even has an attack that, more often than not, one-shots your single member of your team. Even with a maxed out team, high level, high stats, all S ranks, you're going to have an incredibly difficult time holding your own against him. These battles can go on for hours if you try to bunker down and be patient. The Lucky Crankakai is a variant that appears in Psychic Spectres. You'll need to take the Hexpress to Buckle Breaker Station to use it. If you talk to the station spirit there, they'll give you a lucky coin that can only be used on that crank specifically. You're only allowed to get one per trip, but the yokai in that Crankakai are almost always rare. Dame Deadtime is the main antagonist of Yokai Watch 2. She has a deep-seated hatred for humans and wants to take over Springdale to get revenge on the humans that wronged her years ago. She has the ability to steal things from others and use them against her enemies, like stealing your level to create a wicked servant, or to prevent you from using certain abilities in battle. As a human, she was accused of a crime she didn't commit and was sentenced to life in jail, where she would spend the rest of her days. When she passed, her hatred for the world that wronged her was so strong that she took the form of a yokai. From then on, she would vow vengeance on the human world by taking away their joy as she was robbed of hers years ago. In Psychic Spectres, there is a quest given by the Directator asking you to help him make a movie about Dame Deadtime's origins. This will have you go to the deepest depths of the Infinite Inferno, where she was imprisoned 60 years after her attack on the human world. She's hesitant at first, but eventually gives in. She was originally a human in the Sengoku period named Otoki. Otoki was the most beautiful woman in her village and had a lot of suitors, but despite that, she only had eyes for one man, a blacksmith by the name of Senkichi. Some women of the village grew jealous of her as a result of this. One of them went so far as to frame her for a crime she didn't commit by breaking a clock in the castle Otoki worked in as a maid and planting the evidence on her. Despite her pleas, she would eventually be sent to spend the rest of her life in prison, missing out on the best years of her life. The older she got, the more bitter she became to the world around her. This hatred became so strong that she became a powerful yokai with a deep desire for vengeance. But it turns out she not only wanted vengeance on the human world because of how she was falsely accused, she also wanted revenge because she thought she lost the love of her life, Senkichi, and feared that he was taken by another woman while she was imprisoned. During the quest, you can actually go back to that same time where she was in prison to find out what happened to Senkichi, and as it turns out, he never married. He waited for her to get released up until the day he died, hoping that they would be reunited, but that day never came. Upon finding this information out, she's in complete shock, realizing that she never lost Senkichi, thus deeming her hatred for humanity completely unnecessary. This was enough for her to reform and turn into Dame Deerful, a much nicer and calm version of what she used to be. Finally at peace, she decides to remain in the Infinite Inferno to atone, and asks the player to seek out her children and help them, those being the wicked elites. Since she no longer has evil in her heart, she fears they'll be lost without her guidance. Bronzo is the brother of Kin and Jin. He has a more polite, carefree personality in contrast to his sister's evilness. He admires his sisters and always tries to help them, but almost always gets in their way and hinders their plans. He appears in Psychic Specters alongside his sisters to help break out Dame Deadtime from the Infinite Inferno. When you encounter them, this will trigger a boss fight with all three of them, and just like the other fights with Kin and Jin, you have to beat all three of them at once to actually win the fight, otherwise they'll just keep reviving each other. Upon defeat, Bronzo will try to help by rewinding the fight from the beginning with the Time Stone, only to pick up the wrong one, this one having a pause symbol. Before Kin and Jin can stop him, the stone freezes all three of them in place and makes them unable to move or act. This would be the last appearance they've ever made in any of the mainline games going forward, so their fate afterwards is unknown. Bushinyan is a fusion of Whisper and Jibanyan. Despite them having very clashing personalities, they get along very well in this form, having perfect balance of each other's positive traits, such as Whisper's smarts and Jibanyan's laid-back nature. Even though they're a fusion, they seem to be their own separate entity, as seen in Yokai Watch Blasters, where they're interacting with Whisper and Jibanyan at the very beginning of the game. Bushinyan is one of the first examples of fusion yokai that weren't actually made through the game's usual fusion process. Just like with the OG Yokai Watch, there was a physical version made of Katie's Yokai Watch based on the design they use in the games. It functions exactly similar to Nate's Yokai Watch, with the only difference being its physical appearance, this one being worn like a necklace instead of a wristwatch. This watch was able to read every single medal that was released around that time, and came packaged with two exclusive medals, those being Golden Yon and Bad Yon. This watch, however, never made it overseas and would strictly be a Japanese exclusive piece of merchandise. Chance is a pretty average yokai, all things considered. His main quirk is that he has a huge gambling addiction to the point where he'll make a wager on just about anything and go all in, which always leads to a severe loss. What makes him interesting is that he has the most evolutions of any yokai in the entire series, with a whopping 3 evolutions. It sounds pretty insignificant given the fact that Digimon exist, but what I find interesting is that he has 3 evolutions, but they're both pretty difficult to obtain, usually requiring a lot of luck. He can be involved with one of 3 fusion items, the Cursed Blade, the Legendary Blade, and the Holy Blade. The Legendary Blade evolves him into Sheen, the Curse turns him into Snee, and the Holy Blade turns him into Gleam, which is the rarest evolution to give him. Chanta is one of the hardest yokai in the game to evolve due to the fact that all of his fusion items require a lot of RNG to work in your favor. They range from having a 1 to 4% chance to spawn in the Crankakai. Outside of that, your only consistent chance to run into these items is to do the lottery at the candy store in Blossom Heights, but even that becomes very tricky. Beyond that, your best bet is to hope someone can trade you one of the 3 yokai instead of having to run the gauntlet of RNG. Awoken yokai are yokai that have been able to tap into their hidden potential and gain immense strength because of it.
It's still unknown how this happens or what a yokai needs to do for them to be awoken, but it's somewhat implied that every yokai has this potential to be awoken, but some have an easier time doing so than others. Awoken yokai will have a huge bright aura radiating around them as a sign of their successful awakening. These yokai first appeared in the mobile game Puni Puni, where they were given a rank exclusive to the game known as SS rank. They would make their first mainline appearance as Psychic Spectres, with those yokai being Jibanyan S, Komasan S, and Komajiro S. The Infinite Tunnel is an area that first appeared in Yokai Watch 2. It's a long dark tunnel with no end in sight and is home to a lot of strong yokai and interesting characters. How you interact with the tunnel affects how long or short your trek through the tunnel will be, and the longer you remain in the tunnel, the more likely you are to encounter rare yokai such as Swoltaria. You can only enter the tunnel once per day, and it requires you to save before entering to prevent you from exploiting it. The Infinite Tunnel is one of the more consistent ways to find rare yokai in this game. After you reach a certain threshold, which usually is around 10 to 20,000 yards, you'll start running into more stronger and rarer yokai. Some of the biggest examples being Swoltaria, Static King, and Count Cavity, with Swoltaria being the main prize, given the fact that he's the last yokai needed to befriend Komashura, the best legendary attacker in the game. Although this is the most consistent way to run into these yokai, you still have to run the gauntlet of whether or not they'll befriend you after battle. It's not uncommon to run through the Infinite Tunnel for up to 2 hours, run into Swoltaria once, fight him and have nothing to show for it, and then minutes later, you reach the end of the tunnel, and then have to wait an entire day just to do it again. There are ways to extend your time in the Infinite Tunnel. There are various NPCs you can interact with on your way through it, some of which will ask you a question. There's no right or wrong way to answer it, but depending on how you answer their questions, they will either extend or shorten your time in the tunnel. Rubius J is one of the many big boss yokai in this series. He's seen as a being of pure destruction and evil with an overwhelming presence and incredible strength. He specializes in explosives and has them wrapped around his waist for easy access. He bears a very striking resemblance to Jibanyan, having 2 tails, a bell around his neck, and his bombs around his waist look similar to Jibanyan's belt. He's also the sworn nemesis of Venok, after admitting to him that he was the one that burned down his village when he was a human. Rubius J is one of the more iconic and recognizable of the big bosses they would release throughout the series. He would go on to make various appearances in all the other games, including the spin-offs too. Hardion is another infamous big boss yokai. He's considered to be much more stronger and dangerous than Rubius J, with Rubius J himself even admitting that fact. He's a much more brutal and merciless yokai of destruction. He keeps a stack of explosive skull bombs on his person that he uses around the battlefield, scattering them to keep his opponents on edge. Those that die to him in battle will have their skulls removed and converted into explosive skull bombs for his arsenal. It's also been stated that he freezes the souls of his victims and consumes them like ice cream. Hardihound also shares similarities with Komi-san, having his iconic backpack, coin purse, and deep love for frozen treats. This is a pattern that will continue further down the line. And that about covers it for the first part of the Yokai Watch Iceberg. I really appreciate it for you making it to the end of the video. This video ended up taking me a lot longer than I would have preferred. I had the idea for about 2 years, and after finally surpassing the urge to procrastinate on it, I finally finished it. Obviously, by the time it gets uploaded, it'll be way past the 10th anniversary of the Yokai Watch series, so that might be a bit outdated. But I can at least promise the next few parts won't take me as long. I plan to have the same structure I did with this one, covering 2 iceberg layers per video, that way it's a bit more compact and manageable for me to get in a timely manner. If you have any suggestions, or think I missed any entries that should have been added, let me know in the comments below, and I'll add them in the next part as a bonus entries. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.